Sounds good. Thank you, Dan. New tonight, thousands of people could start the new year without health coverage. Local and state healthcare leaders gathering in Springfield earlier today with an urgent message new tonight.
Thousands of people could start the new year without health coverage. As Chris just said, local and state healthcare leaders gathered in Springfield today with an urgent message. Western Mass News reporter Matt Price is getting answers, joins us live in studio with what you need to know. Matt.
Yeah, Amanda and Chris, the clock is ticking. Healthcare leaders say if you need insurance, you have 6 days to be covered at the beginning of the year. They gathered at the health center here at Sumner Avenue to sound the alarm.
Folks are nervous. People are worried, concerned, confused by all of the different changes that are going on.
Caring Health Center's Chief Executive Vice President, Christina Huebner-Torres, telling Western Mass News there is a lot of confusion around getting health insurance. At this moment, she and others are telling those folks to have a plan in place by the middle of next week.
We have grown to the point where we have very low uninsured or underinsured rates. We want to maintain that and sustain that, keep folks insured and covered, having access to health care, quality health care, and the services that they need.
Huebner-Torres making this announcement with Massachusetts Health Connector, the Commonwealth's official health insurance marketplace. Open enrollment runs until January 23rd, but they are urging people to enroll in health insurance by December 23rd to ensure they will start the new year with health coverage.
We wanted to highlight the role that navigators, like those who work here at Caring Health Center, play in helping people make their way through an application process that might be new to them or feel intimidating or overwhelming. And they are here, they speak dozens of languages, and they can support people with that process.
According to Massachusetts Health Connector's Executive Director, Audrey Gasteyer, they also are raising the alarm about premium increases based on federal changes. Those changes include the removal of subsidies from a number of people through the One Big Beautiful Bill that was signed by President Trump earlier this year. In addition, at this time, Congress has not extended enhanced premium tax credits, which help to bring health coverage costs down.
Do not Google around for cheap health insurance. You will find yourself being marketed a junk insurance plan that will not be there for you when you need it, and you could end up with big medical bills.
Massachusetts Health Connector says the main targets for the December 23rd deadline are people who are not covered by job-based insurance, those who recently moved to Massachusetts, folks who work in the Commonwealth's vibrant gig economy, and anyone else who doesn't have insurance. Huebner-Torres' advice, get in touch with Caring Health Center's Navigator team or anyone in Massachusetts Health Connector within the next 6 days.
The navigator is going to sit one-on-one, elbow to elbow with the person or their family. You can come as a family, you can come as an individual, and have that conversation, be able to go through all of your information so that you can actually anticipate, if it were this, it would be this much. If it were that date, it would be this much.
Now, if you miss the December 23rd deadline, you would still have until January 23rd to enroll. However, that coverage would not begin until February 1st. To find out how you can get assistance, just go to our website, westernmassnews.com, or our app. Reporting live in the studio, Matt Price, Western Mass News.